Hello, my name is Naomi Steinberg, and I was one of the jurors for the Quebec Writers Federation Literary Awards this year. I sat on the jury for the Concordia University First Book Prize, and it gives me tremendous pleasure to be speaking with this year's winner of the award, Madelaine Caritas Longman, author of The Danger Model. Hello, Madelaine.
Hi, Naomi. It's so great to be here, and thank you for this interview and for this lovely award. It's really an honor.
For sure, for sure. So we have a few questions, and let's just jump right into this interview.
Great.
First off, given that this is a very special year where we weren't able to have an in person gala, we wanted to know if you had had an opportunity to give an in person acceptance speech. Are there any special words that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, well, I would really like to take the opportunity to thank everyone who made this book possible. I still am so amazed and happy that it exists at all, and it really couldn't have happened if I hadn't been supported by such a wonderful group of writers and friends and people in my life. Stephanie Bolster was incredible in helping me proofread this manuscript and making me believe that it was possible and encouraging my writing. And Mary D. McKaylee, my master's supervisor, was really wonderful. Thank you to my longtime mentor, Sherry D. Wilson, for inspiring me and motivating me and just always being there and being this fantastic presence in my life. And to my first readers, Mona Malik and Janine Chan, who are also wonderful friends and wonderful people. And finally, to my editor, Carolyn Smart, who read about at least 15 drafts of this book because I kept going back and changing things. And she was really remarkably patient and insightful.
It's incredible, isn't it? Writing is such a solitary endeavor, and yet it really does take a community, a team to bring our work out into the world. So, yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Does that act of writing, that solitary act of writing, does it energize you or does it exhaust you?
Oh, it's definitely both. I find for writing, for me, it's very much a way of being with my thoughts and being with my senses and going into what I'm experiencing with my full heart and my full energy. And that's very exciting and it makes the world feel so much more intense and real, but it can also be a little exhausting. So energizing and inspiring at the same time because you're caring about things and putting yourself in that space of caring.
Yeah, it's extremely powerful, no? It can bring the world to life around us as we're training our perception and finding ways to capture in words on the page.
Mhm.
Do you remember the first time that you kind of got that there was a power to words and there was a power
Mm.
to the act of writing? Is there a story
Yeah,
or an anecdote that you could share about that time?
yeah. I've found that writing and books, they've always been a big part of my life, but it really took on this new and special significance when I was around 13 or 14, because I think that's really the time where you're starting to find out your identity and to realize that you are a person with your own thoughts and feelings and desires, and rather than just an extension of what the adults around you want you to do. But it's also the same time as you're developing sort of a sense of irony and sarcasm. So words can sometimes get tossed away and tossed around in a way that can be quite hurtful. So you're really navigating this space where, on one hand, it feels like everything matters so much, but you're also caught up in this anxiety that maybe nothing matters at all. And it's this very fraught state. And during that time, books really provided me comfort and insight in a way that was new and different and exciting because I could come home after school and just spend hours reading through this collection of novels that my parents had left out and working my way through all these books and getting this sense of something mattering and of people just expressing in this honest and meaningful way the things that they cared about and that mattered to them, and wanting to share that with others and bring them into it. And it was just such a contrast to this sort of immersion of sarcasm that I was otherwise immersed in as a young teenager. And I remember reading Alice Walker's The Color Purple, and there was a scene where one of the characters talks about walking past the color purple in a field and really seeing that color and being so excited and feeling such joy at this sight. And that really just struck me and made me look at the world in a new way, and to realize that really seeing the world and being present in it as a participant was something that could matter. And it was just astounding that books were able to convey this experience and share it. And that made me really want to be a part of the world of writing and just the world of things mattering and sharing that mattering.
It's a beautiful thing. What I'm hearing is a lot of like a willingness to step fully into life and to affect life as much as life affects us, you know, that we are participants in the making of the world. And I think perhaps one of your poems in particular speaks to that. It's the Book of Judges, um, where you have a line, what is it to allow oneself to be thought?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a poem, you know, your collection, The Danger Model, it's so beautiful. And for me, it was a very deep delve into interiority, with never forgetting the exterior and the details, all that sensory um, world, you know, that you allude to just in your answer there. So I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit to that experience of allowing oneself to be thought.
Yeah, I love that question. That's so interesting. In the book of Judges, I'm really interested in the idea of our thinking and ourselves, and what is the relationship between these, because our thoughts aren't always the things we believe. We might have a thought that passes through and it doesn't really line up with our usual means of thinking, and our we might for a moment believe something that we don't actually want to believe. And it can be very confusing and really throw our sense of self into confusion. And I found that just trying to build a sense of openness and to accept that all these thoughts come into your mind through the day and they come and go, and learning to build a sense of peace with that and following it through with curiosity rather than trying to avoid maybe thoughts that are upsetting or thoughts that are confusing, and instead just being open to the world and allowing it to pass through, and sort of allowing the thoughts to be part of this larger ecosystem where instead of judging them, we're allowing ourselves to be and seeing where that being takes us.
Beautiful. Um, you write a number of poems for Yayoi Kusama, who I think was in that realm where she chose to live in a. I learned so much about her, by the way. Thank you so much.
Oh,
But
she's
she chose
fascinating.
to live in a mental health institution,
Mhm.
and perhaps because she was, you know, so many impressions were flowing through her, and so
Mhm.
having to navigate and find her own stability, and then what is produced through her work, through her diligence, is so incredible and so inspiring and such a unique view onto reality, I think. Um, I was wondering if you would be willing to share with us a little bit of in what way do you resonate with her work? How does it speak to you?
Yeah, I find her such an incredible artist and a really beautiful spirit with this amazing vision. And I find her work so moving, and her life is so interesting. And I really value just the perspective she brings to the world. I found it so exciting and energizing to see the way that she's found to make a life and to make a really beautiful life, while still experiencing these obsessions and these compulsions and a lot of other experiences. But it's the obsessions and the compulsions that I particularly relate to. And I find it really incredible that instead of pushing away these parts of herself and trying to separate them from her, she's found a way to live in harmony with these maybe more extreme sides of her personality, and to make a life where she's living in a way that is meaningful to her, and she's engaged in this very rich and very complex creative process. And instead of the obsession pushing her out of her life or making her fearful, she's found a way to harness that energy as this propulsive force that is moving her into something that is meaningful and that she's sharing with the world in this way that gives this sense of vastness and this sense of connection to other people. And I find it just so beautiful, this artwork, that through its use of repetition and its sense of the vastness, she's created this whole universe, or maybe drawn our attention to this universe that is already there and opened us into seeing it. So even if her way of living may not match up with what is typical, it's still a good life and a beautiful life. And I think that's just such a wonderful message that I really needed to hear.
Yes, yes, and you know that that sense of vastness and connectedness and the unique way of expressing and sharing and perhaps inspiring others or comforting others, I did find in your writing, in the way that you, even, of course, the words that you chose and the sentences and images that you crafted, but also little techniques that you used, like interline, where there were, in some ways, there were two poems stitched together, or
Mm-hmm.
two lines of thought stitched together, and there was this feeling for me, the way that your writing landed on my body. I did
Mm-hmm.
feel like I had an opportunity for the hemispheres of my brain really to connect and to inform each other. So I was really grateful to find your poems, actually. So thank you for
Thank
that.
you. That
And
means a lot.
in terms of like, each one of us is like a unique, quirky universe.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you'd be willing to share with us any of your more particularly quirky approaches to writing, or if there's any unique techniques that you use either to prepare yourself for a day of writing or in the act of writing itself during that time.
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I find that I write a lot while I'm walking. I like to be in motion. I find it just helps me think. Even if I'm in my office, I'm always getting up and pacing. And while I was writing this book, I wrote a lot of it in the library, but I would really get up like every 5 minutes. And I think it probably looked really weird to everyone else who was studying around me. And I apologize in retrospect because it was probably a little bit disruptive to have this person constantly pacing around the room. But for me, I find that writing is very much an embodied act. Like you feel the words like pulsing, and I'm really glad that sense of embodiment is something that came through in your reading it as well. Because when I was writing it, it definitely felt like a physical experience. And I think so. My writing process is maybe not particularly exciting and edgy, but it does look a little strange.
I'm definitely in support of this idea that we can write with the intelligence of our whole body.
Mm-hmm.
That there is, especially in contemporary culture, a tendency to be heads and to forget the body. And especially as we're having so much time in front of the computer, um,
Mm-hmm.
so much gets locked into the body, and we can
Mm-hmm.
have trauma and we can get stagnation and all this. And so to willingly move all of that and consciously know that we're going to be putting that into our writing, I think is incredible. So we only have about another minute left. Is there anything else that you want to make sure to say, or any final thoughts?
Well, I would like to thank you for this really beautiful interview and these excellent questions. Like it gave me so much to think about, and it was really a pleasure.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Madelaine. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Um, so once again, we've had the privilege right now of being with Madelaine Caritas Longman, the winner of this year's first book, Concordia University First Book Prize. And the Danger Model is available for sale. As a sponsor of this year's prizes, Montreal's Paragraph Bookstore has a special section on their website dedicated to the QWF Literary Awards, with all the titles available at a discount. So definitely please go visit www.paragraphbooks.com to place your order. It's an incredibly important time to be supporting authors and creatives as we are navigating this time and as a new world is emerging. As we support our artists, our authors, and our creatives, then we can be inspired and emboldened to continue together in a good way. So to find out more about the other winners of this year's QWF Literary Awards, please do visit qwf.org. And thanks again, Madelaine, and thanks everybody
Thank
for
you.
watching.